Hello, Dr. Blackman and all of my colleagues and fellow students. Today I'm going to talk about my findings that I had for my interview. For my interview, I interviewed a teacher at a fifth grade teacher at Beaumont Elementary School. They've been subbing prior to this for the past two and a half years with students from anywhere from kindergarten to fifth grade, but they also work partially volunteering for the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club in the past for about 3 or 4 years. So they have a multitude of experiences working with children in differing behaviors in different settings. Some new and surprising knowledge that I gained from the interviewee is that regardless of settings, you're going to run into challenging behaviors. So that can be in a school setting, outside of the school settings, which I kind of, I've gained from what I do for my job. I work with behavioral challenging children at the special education level, and I love it. It's a new experience every single day. They provided me some great strategies to help manage these behaviors, especially using positive behavior intervention supports. For them, they said the most effective one is to use ignoring the behavior at first, but only until it's not dangerous, because you don't want to cause the child to continue to escalate their behaviors or cause an extinction burst or just re-trigger themselves or ever present danger to themselves or to other students in the classroom. They said there's great assessments that you can use for differing students, and some of the ways that they use differentiation for students with ELL or ELL students or students with special needs is that they would provide someone that could interpret but not give them the answer for the questions, or that they would provide them speech-to-text functions for the tests, or they would allow them to not have to handwrite it, but they could utilize the speech-to-text function for some of those assignments and assessments. Some mistakes that I think I could easily avoid when working with challenging students and their behaviors would be to not ever take any of these behaviors personally, and know that they're all stemming from a basic need that's not being met. I think that's very important to remember when you're working with students, because a lot of times as adults we like to automatically associate that they're doing these behaviors out of a personal not revenge but personal effect, and a lot of the times that's not the case. There are some students that will do things because they're trying to get a reaction out of you, but it's not personally directed at the teacher. So if we can figure out what the base need is that they're not getting, either at home or in the school setting, then we can help to mitigate the behaviors. Especially if they're having these behaviors because they're struggling with the content, then we can recommend different resources like RSP, or even push for an IEP or a BSP if these behaviors continue to escalate. The interview process itself wasn't necessarily difficult, but I think the most difficult portion is probably filming myself, because I get nervous. But regardless, just sitting down and interviewing the teacher was easy, comfortable. I've worked with them in the past before at the previous school that I work at, so I already had that kind of comfortability around this teacher. I enjoyed the interview. I always like to talk to different professionals in education, because I can gain something that maybe I didn't see, or gain a new perspective of something, and it will provide me more clarity that I can use to better meet the needs of students with challenging behaviors or without challenging behaviors. There wasn't really anything I didn't particularly enjoy about the interview process. I generally like to talk to people, and I think I'm a relatively social person in the work setting. Some of the things that could have made the entire process easier, I believe, would be recording the teacher themselves with for the video purpose, but understandably sometimes You can't do that. I think maybe the interview process could have been easier if I could have seen examples of some of the BSPs and IEPs that they used for a few of their students, because then I could have seen specific goals that they had to help curb the behavior or to provide alternative behaviors for the students that had those behaviors. In the current job that I work, I deal with a lot of children that have challenging behaviors due to either a form of disability or behavioral disorder. And they are some of the sweetest kids, but they do struggle because they either have an educational disability that prevents them from progressing through the school, so they end up getting frustrated because the work continues to progress and gets harder for them, or that they just have a developmental disability that sometimes can make them frustrated because they don't understand the material. But as long as you can find just tools and supports that help the students, most often they can accomplish their educational goals or any social goals that are set out in the IEPs and the BSPs. One specific one that I like to use is definitely positive praise. It goes a long way with students, even if they have challenging behaviors or not, but especially for the challenging behaviors, when they are really lacking those positive supports at home or positive supports at school, they don't feel like adults care about them. So if they can feel that there is an adult on campus that cares about them and praises them, even if it's just for a small act, they're willing to keep trying to repeat those acts. And then eventually the negative behaviors or undesired behaviors that they exhibit will kind of not die out, but they'll decrease greatly, and then it'll be replaced by the desired or positive behaviors. We also on campus have a SEL team, and so they do morning check-ins with kids that are on BSPs, and some of these BSPs range from tier 1 to tier 3 behaviors. So they'll have them have a check sheet, and then it'll check off, from a scale of like 0 to 3, how they've done within the day for classes. And it'll, they're pretty helpful because the kids they self-rate themselves, or the teachers will rate themselves. And for the most part, they're very, very honest about it. And they do really struggle when they don't get a good rating, and then it helps them kind of choose the positive behavior for the next day. And at the end of the week, if they have so many points, they're able to choose from a prize, similar to like a token economy system, but a little different because it's a greater reward. And these sheets are also sent home to the parents. So for when I become a future teacher, I want to utilize these strategies because I think it'll help overall curb any challenging behaviors that can be found in the classroom. I also learned that it's just important just to keep trying different new tactics. That's what the teacher told me, is that any tactic that doesn't work, you just start from scratch, see what works, and then kind of keep plugging in for each individual student. But those were my findings that I had from my interview, and I hope you enjoy reading my transcripts. Thank you.